Good evening, welcome to Kevin Toll Reads. So today I am doing the third video in the Why You Should Read series, and today we are covering Why You Should Read author Neil Gaiman. So Neil Gaiman is an English author that was born in 1960. He has written over 50 books. He's also published a lot of journals, essays, articles. He's also written graphic novels, comics, screenplays, adaptations, etc. I have 9 of Neil Gaiman's books as I have just kind of started my collection. I have read 5 of those 9 books. I can say that 4 of those 5 books I really enjoyed. I thought they were great. One of those books is probably in my top 10 books, maybe not. I got a video coming soon on that. But anyways, of those 5 books, I'm going to talk to you about those in a little bit. I really enjoyed. I recently started reading Neil Gaiman in the last 12 months. In the last 6 months, I've really enjoyed the books I have read. And so in terms of kind of typesetting how Neil Gaiman is as an author, I kind of characterize him as fantasy in the sense that he writes a lot of what I call soft fantasy or mystical fantasy. I think he has a very whimsical way of his writing and prose that I really enjoy. In terms of some of the books I've read, Ocean at the End of the Lane is one of the ones I really enjoyed. I kind of give this one kind of a whimsical fantasy approach. It's a great read. You could read this thing in an afternoon if you really wanted to. I think it's a fantastic book. Stardust is the one book I've read where I was kind of okay about it. It's a fantasy, kind of a interesting take on a fantasy. He has to capture a star to save a girl that he likes type thing in a land where they don't exit a certain boundary. It's an interesting tale, and we'll talk a little bit of why Neil Gaiman is so good, and that's definitely one of his strengths. American Gods, this is actually the first book I read of Neil Gaiman. I really enjoy this book and talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. The second book I read of Neil Gaiman was Neverwhere, another great book. And then lastly, Good Omens, that he co-wrote with Terry Pratchett, who is the infamous author of the Discworld series. So again, why is Neil Gaiman so good as an author? And for me, I think he does a fantastic job of plot. Some of these books, you get the kind of start, you learn about the characters and the setting type thing where you get the upstart. Some you kind of dive right in. Some are kind of an organic learn. And I kind of like that. There's a little variety to them. You definitely don't have an author it's always kind of the same. I really enjoy that, when a Lee Child or a John Sanford doesn't always set up the books the same way, where someone's getting killed or something happens, and then you bring in the main, you bring in Jack Reacher, you bring in Lucas Davenport, and then you're figuring it out, and then is he going to win, or is there some kind of twist, and that's it. Gaiman does a really good job of every book's kind of a little different kind of spin, but the plot just keeps pace really well. I think he does a very good job with characterization. I think some authors are very light touch when it comes to characterization. You get enough just to keep the story moving along. They're more, focused on world building or plot twists and all that. So it's very light touch when it comes to the characterization. You have some authors that are so heavily invested in describing these characters and what's important or are cool about them that you don't get enough world building or plot to really make them go anywhere type thing. I think he does a really good job meeting in the middle. And in terms of, I think his writing style, again, it's very lyrical. It's very easy to come by. Wasn't turned off by it. It doesn't take a little while to get used to type thing. I found that a little bit with the Ken Liu. It takes a little while to get used to that. One of the Janie Wart's books I read, her writing style, she uses a lot of complex multi-syllable words, and it takes a while to read, a paragraph. So his is much more easy. It just makes sense. It's matter of fact. He does, have definitely some English vibe to him a little bit, but it's not overly handed where you feel, you're reading kind of old English. He's really good at closures. I really like that about him. Even this one that I wasn't about, I didn't think like he was terrible at the landing. Some Stephen King books, even some of the Ken Follett books I've read, even some of the Sanford books I read, sometimes the closings are a little rushed or they're a little just kind of muddled. And I think so far of the 5 books I read, I think he's done a great job of closing the books out. So in terms of where to start when it comes to Neil Gaiman, obviously this is my least favorite. Probably not a recommend for me, but these 4 here are definitely, you could start here. You can start with any one of these, but I'll give you some kind of guidelines. If you're looking for just a kind of easy commitment, any of these books will work. They're all standalones. There's I think American Gods and Nisi Boys are kind of connected, but it's a standalone story. But The Ocean at the End of the Lane, it's a small book. It's an easy read. I definitely think you can knock this out in the afternoon. You can get a pretty good idea of Neil Gaiman as an author. It's definitely kind of a fantasy, whimsical, figure out, very intrigue. You have a guy who goes back to his hometown, an area where he grew up, for a funeral, and then he remembers, this girl at the end of the lane, but was it a memory, and then he goes down there and strange things start happening and he has flashbacks to, it's a really cool story. If you're kind of interested in maybe checking him out and you really tend to like kind of witty humor, Good Omens is definitely a book for you. Fun fact, it was said that, most of this book is written by Terry Pratchett. At the time, when you do some of the research online about this book, they say that Neil Gaiman, was spending a lot of time writing a movie adaptation or finishing one of his other commitments. So Pratchett read a bunch of it and Gaiman did a lot of the editing. But this is very funny. The premise of this story basically is you have 2 angels, one from heaven, one from hell, and they're here regarding Armageddon, and the son of Satan has been born, and what are they going to do? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? And so it's a very interesting take. Neverwhere, which was the second book I read of Neil Gaiman, this is a very kind of urban fantasy, whimsical in a way. A lot of intrigue. You get touches on different characters in a different setting, kind of a place under a place, and it's not the same above as it is below. And there's a lot of intrigue. So if you kind of like, the world building, this definitely touches on it. All the main characters are very interesting. If you're huge on characterization, American Gods, fantastic story, phenomenal story, and the character development is great. This mixes a really cool story with a mythological gods and how they have sat dormant in Earth, and so this is a great story. I really enjoyed this book. So that's my take. Neil Gaiman is a fantastic author. He's phenomenal. I really enjoy him. I'm glad I took the dive and tried him out. Again, 4 out of 5 I've really enjoyed. The 5th one was okay, and I definitely am not disappointed that I spent time reading it, so that's always a plus. But I hope you enjoy this. I hope this gives you some thoughts around maybe trying Neil Gaiman out. If you've read Neil Gaiman, you've had hits or misses, or you've really enjoyed some of his books, please drop me a comment. I'd like to hear from you. I hope this video series is right up your alley. I definitely enjoy making these, and I'm looking forward to trying to figure out which one I want to do next. And so if you got any ideas, also give me a comment. I might be able to add that to the list as well. So hope you're having a great evening, and thanks for checking out. Talk to you later. Bye.